We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord. I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Hello, good evening. Welcome back to Legally Speaking. I'm Larry, the 101.1 FM and Spectrum TV, and Star Times and the Free-to-Air station. Now, my name is Anthony Ekuka, and the program I'm listening to is Legally Speaking. The elections have come and gone, at least the presidential elections and the National Assembly elections. Winners have emerged, though controversial. There's been a lot of drama, lots of questions were asked during and after the elections. And the law courts lawyers are gearing up to fire on all cylinders, going to approaching courts to set aside decisions of INEC. All right, but today, one of the things we are going to look at, we're looking at three things majorly. First one will have to do with the complaint against the has to do with the complaint against INEC's refusal to annul or suspend the announcements of the results. We'll look at the legal implication of that, if there are any. We'll also look at 6 governors who have gone to the Supreme Court requesting that the election results of INEC be set aside. At least, maybe that's what we'll call it. Then we go back to the central bank. The Supreme Court has today declared that central bank has, or the federal government did not have powers to, well, let me not put them out of context, but the central bank has said that the old Naira notes of 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes will continue to be in use until December 2023.
The Supreme Court, not central bank.
Yeah, yes, the Supreme Court. That's the position of the Supreme Court. That those notes will continue to be in use. I have with me in the studio 2 legal practitioners. One of them is the principal partner of Justice Chambers, Ekemini Udumu. Ekemini, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Etini Ibasi is an associate with law partners and associates. Etini, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's open with the central bank's decision, or the Supreme Court decision on the old Naira note. Ekemini, I know you are so happy because the last time you saw money in denomination of 1,000 should be sometime last year, right? And you are so broke. All right, let's start. What's your opinion on that?
Every Nigerian citizen is broke, except maybe, yeah, of the political class. You still have your way of making money, but the majority of citizens today, are broke. Not really because you don't have money, but because you don't have cash in your hand anymore. So it's a general problem, and I think a general problem is no problem. That's what I just think.
Okay.
But my impression about the decision of the Supreme Court, well, Supreme Court has spoken. Supreme Court says central bank continue to circulate the old Naira notes up to 31st December this year, and that's the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court having spoken, I cannot add, I cannot subtract. That's the law for today, but I'm worried about how the implementation is going to be.
Before you get to be worried about the implementation,
okay.
I know a lot of people will be thinking, okay, that decision of the Supreme Court, that appears to be like the first decision of the court on this matter. And some people would want to know what's a way forward if the federal government is not happy with that decision.
Well, I'm not sure the federal government can do anything about it. I mean, it's totally declared by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is like the apex court in Nigeria. So if the Supreme Court says we should continue to use the old note till 31st, yes, 31st of December this year, then that's the decision of the court. Can't flout it.
Okay, from apex, she means a final court, the court nearest to God. So after that, you go to God. And now God doesn't want to interfere with Nigerian affairs. So we're getting worried and thinking their worry is whether or not the federal government, that's why I paused you, because your worry was whether the federal government will be happy to implement it or not.
No, not even about being happy to implement. What's going to happen to the new Naira notes, which so much money has been used in printing it? And can the Supreme Court really implement this policy of saying continue to use it till December? I'm saying this because judgment has been given already, so I have the liberty to interrogate, to ask a few questions.
If I want to answer the first question,
okay.
The Supreme Court did not suspend the use of the new Naira notes. The Supreme Court merely said it should run side by side, and one will be phased out by the 31st of December. So, because some people queried, there is no way in the world where 2.something trillion could be pulled out of a circulation and replaced immediately. It has to be staggered over time.
Okay.
Over time, you bring in 500 billion to 1 trillion, 2 trillion, and then the whole money is phased out. It costs a whole lot of economic action. But on legally speaking, our query will be on the legality of the suit itself.
That's part of my worry. And I mean, when the Supreme Court says the two Naira notes should move concurrently, they should move side by side. And also the Supreme Court has given dates that this other one will be phased out, which is the 31st of this month. And I ask,
31st of December.
Of December, and I ask, is that within the powers of the Supreme Court to do? Who made the application for that to be extended, for the time to be extended till December this year? Who made the application? You see, when the Central Bank of Nigeria, the body that is saddled with the lawful jurisdiction and authority to deal on financial matters, to give financial regulation, they have said from henceforth this money is no more legal tender. They've replaced it with new Naira notes. I just thought that what should have been done in the circumstance would have been to encourage the central bank to make the new Naira notes available for Nigerian citizens, and not to have this kind of confused kind of situation where old notes will be made to go in pari passu with the new notes. I don't know how the market woman is going to react to this. I don't know how the village woman is going to react, to this.
Well, like you said earlier on, a general problem is a common problem and it's not a problem. So if it's a general decision, everybody, the moment they begin to see that we have multiple colors, maybe we'll bring CFAs and other currencies. So
okay.
I have a worry. So the court says we should continue.
Don't be as worried as myself.
We should continue using the old notes. Now, let's say 90%, 95% of Nigerians, or should I say 99%, had paid in these old notes to the bank. So does it mean that the banks are going to return the old notes to us?
Well, I think the banks, what the implication there is that when the banks go to central bank and demand for cash, the quality and quantity of cash that they will have will be a mix of the old and the new. with the new, if the new.
The issue was never with the old and the new. The issue was with the circulation.
Yes, that's what I mean. So as to meet up the cash demand. I mean, Nigeria needs to get off this pressure. It's too much. But yet, I still go back to the legal question. Now, Ekemi had hinted that the central bank is not the Supreme Court is not a Father Christmas, granting prayers that weren't asked by the parties before it, the 31st December prayer. I don't know where it came from, but I've not read the processes that were filed before the court. But I am still, we were worried about the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to even entertain that suit in the first place. Because we're setting precedents that are not very, very comforting. All right? We are seeing precedents that are not very comforting. Now, the central bank assumes original jurisdiction between states and federal government without the Supreme Court. I keep saying that. The Supreme Court has assumed jurisdiction of a matter that is affecting the central bank and adjudicates between the states and the federal government. Fine, the central bank is the agent. But the central bank seems to have been given autonomy to operate without the federal government's interference. So most of the decision of the central bank is supposed to be a decision from an autonomous body saddled with the powers to operate on its own. Now, if it has that autonomy, and you're suing the federal government, regardless of that autonomy, and asking the federal government to command the central bank to obey the decision of wouldn't you think that you're whittling down the autonomous position of the central bank?
Well, like I said, this matter has been decided, so it has become something for the public to make comment on it. If it were still if it were still in the Supreme Court, then we will not discuss it, but it's been decided and we have the right to discuss it. I said this respectfully. I find it difficult to see how the Supreme Court has jurisdiction over this matter in the first place. Now, jurisdiction is a matter of law. It's not something that comes with, having to look here and there to find if you have jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is something that you just open to the book, the law that creates the court, and then you find it. If it is not there, it is not there. Every court of record in Nigeria, beginning from the High Court to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, these are courts created by the Constitution. And so when you talk about the jurisdiction of each of these courts, you go straight to the Constitution. By Section 230 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 232, talking about the original jurisdiction of the court, the Supreme Court. Let me read. The Supreme Court shall, to the exclusion of any other court, have original jurisdiction in any disputes, underline, any disputes between the Federation and a state, or between states, if and insofar as that dispute involves any question, whether of law or of fact, on which the existence or extent of a legal right depends. Now, what is the dispute between these states that went to the Supreme Court?
Or what's the legal rights?
What is the legal rights of these states that went to the Supreme Court? Is it a dispute between this state and the Federation, or a dispute between these states and a policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria? I think it is between these states or individuals in Nigeria and a policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and not with the Federation of Nigeria. Now, I have given illustration about this kind of disputes that the law here contemplates. Akwa Ibom Cross River, boundary neighbors. Akwa Ibom says we have oil in Cross River. Cross River says we have oil in Akwa Ibom. There's a dispute there. You cannot take it to the State High Court or Federal High Court. You take it straight to the Supreme Court. That is the contemplation of the makers of this Constitution, as at the time they drafted it. They never contemplated, because when you talk about interpretation of sections of the Constitution, you use many canons. They use them generic, the literary interpretation, the purposive interpretation, and so on. You look at what could have been the intendment of the lawmaker. It could not have been the intendment of the lawmaker, as in this section now, that any state governor that complains about the action of an agency of the federal government, or in this case an autonomous agency, which is the Central Bank of Nigeria, you run straight to the Supreme Court. What I think is that this matter resides in the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court. Because when you look at Section 251 of the Constitution, it says that issues of banking policy resides, currency and so on, resides in the Federal High Court. So the state governors ought to have started at the Federal High Court, and in that case, they would have sued Central Bank. You move from there to the Court of Appeal, and you move from there to the Supreme Court. Okay. But not for this matter to have gone directly to the Supreme Court in its original jurisdiction.
Okay.
I think it lays a precedent that even law teachers may find it difficult to really understand how to explain this to children in classrooms, and also a precedent that may open a floodgate of so many cases coming like this to the Supreme Court, and that's not very good for
talking
our
about
jurisprudence.
laying a precedent. As of today, we've got news that 6 state governors and attorney generals of states have sued the federal government at the Supreme Court again, this time challenging the outcome of an election, 2023 presidential and National Assembly election. So, Etini, I think because of that, we'll have to go straight to the act. What does it say about, what does the Electoral Act in particular say with respect to parties to an election or a challenge of an election?
Now, Section 133 of the Electoral Act on persons entitled to present election petitions. It says, an election petition may be presented by one or more of the following persons: a candidate in an election or a political party which participated in the election. A person whose election is complained of is in this act referred to as the respondent. If the petitioner complains of the conduct of an electoral officer, a presiding or returning officer, it shall not be necessary to join such officers or persons, notwithstanding the nature of the complaint, and the Commission shall in this instance be made respondent and deemed to be defending the petition for itself and on behalf of its officers or such other persons.
All right, now these parties have gone to court. The Attorney General of the state against the Attorney General of the Federation, and they are complaining about the outcome of an election. The query is now, who amongst them was a party to that election? Is it the Attorney General of the Federation or the Attorney General of the state? Because at the point of election, there is a mixed pot. The states don't exist. It's those political parties that are the actors, and the autonomous, independent National Electoral Commission. And these are not parties that can appear at the Supreme Court on original jurisdiction. The law has clearly stated that anybody that has any issue with the conduct of an election, this is where you visit the Court of Appeal. And now, I don't know if the Attorney Generals of the state are drawing strength from the Attorney General of the state and federation in the CBN case. Because in that case of the CBN is also an autonomous body. INEC is an autonomous body. So having succeeded against the CBN, I think they have win in their cell to believe they will succeed against the INEC results. So, Ekemi, let's see what's your own imagination.
They may be right in going to the court in view of the precedent already laid down this afternoon by the Supreme Court. And you know, the law is for everybody. So if the Supreme Court has assumed jurisdiction for the state governors that went to the Supreme Court to ignite the original jurisdiction of the court, then the attorneys general of these 6 states may also be leveraging on that to also test the waters and see if the Supreme Court would not or would, attend to them. And in Nigeria, what we do is a system of judicial precedent. So the decision of the Supreme Court today becomes binding on the same court tomorrow if someone comes with something similar. And this is where I have a problem with the fact that the Supreme Court of Nigeria even assumed jurisdiction in the first place over the currency matter. I am saying, and I hold it very strongly, that the Supreme Court ought to have directed those governors to go to the Federal High Court and start from there. The floodgate that is now opened by the Supreme Court is to see this kind of ridiculous suit that is being filed by attorneys general of 6 states of the Federation at the Supreme Court. I see it as an insulting suit against, before the Supreme Court. Why? The laws are so clear. The Attorney General has no business with the outcome of an election unless the Attorney General was a party at the election.
And in which case, if he's suing, he's not suing as an attorney general.
He cannot sue as an attorney. This is even an abuse of public office by the attorneys general that have gone to court. Which law authorizes an attorney general to go to court to challenge, the outcome of an election? Was the state a party to the election? For instance, Akwa Ibom, I have seen Akwa Ibom State here as one of the states that have gone to the Supreme Court. I think I've seen Adamawa State. And so
I think we have Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Delta, Edo, Sokoto. Usual suspects.
Okay, so you can see these are PDP states that have taken this to the court. But one would have thought that the attorneys general would know better because they are the custodians of the law.
My friend called me, and I think part of the question he asked was if they could be sanctioned against the individual attorney generals who have filed this action.
Well,
and I'm thinking if some of them are senior advocates of Nigeria, they could be deroped.
No, why would the Supreme Court come so hard on them like that?
No, why wouldn't you? Because it's a frivolous application. If you go to England...
No, I am the one calling it frivolous.
Okay.
Yes, the Supreme Court may not call it so.
What if the Supreme Court comes to the same conclusion?
No, but the Supreme Court... No, the Supreme Court will be too early in sanctioning these ones. The Supreme Court did nothing to the states that came to the court just yesterday. So the Supreme Court will be too early to sanction these attorneys general, but maybe the Supreme Court will now have to school them and tell them we do not have original jurisdiction over election matters. That is one. Number two, you do not have the jurisdiction, the local standing to bring this action. And you know that we have not seen this kind of action before since 1999 at the dawn of democracy till now.
Since the beginning of democracy.
Okay, it is the first of its kind, and I am saying that this very application by the 6 attorneys general, and they are acting, saying that they are suing on behalf of the state, it is an abuse of judicial process, it is frivolous, and there is need for the Supreme Court to stop this flurry of this kind of cases going to that court. That's a very special court.
We'll be opening the phone lines at this moment. The numbers to call will be 090-222-31011. Repeat that number, 090-222-31011. The alternative number to call is 070-454-17707. I repeat that alternative number, 070-454-17707. Recall that we'll be talking about the interests of the attorney generals of the states in the coalition and announcement of results by INEC. We've also been talking about the Supreme Court's decision that just came in this afternoon that the Central Bank of Nigeria must suspend its embargo on the use of the old Naira notes, suspend it till 31st of December 2023. So the old notes will run side by side until then. We've been examining the rights and jurisdiction of the Supreme Court vis-a-vis that decision. And we are thinking that maybe based on that decision, the Attorney Generals of the states, 6 states, Sokoto, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, who else? Edo, Delta, have been buoyed to file an action challenging the outcome of an election, even as Attorney Generals of the states. So that's the conversation for now. And yes, Italy, I'm sure that even the Electoral Act has stipulated where election petition can be commenced and what grounds those election petitions are bent to focus on.
Good evening.
Yes, hello, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Good evening. My name is Charles. I'm calling you from Uyo.
Charles from Uyo. Go on, sir.
Okay, I want to talk about the Supreme Court decision. I'm not a lawyer or a barrister, but I have been giving the read back the judgment. The judgment given the statement says that since Central Bank is taking direction from the dividend, that the Supreme Court has the right because it is not the central bank that it is, even in the central bank act, they say that they should also independent before they take a decision. And the one of I think Socrates or Aristotle, it says any law, judgment, or policy of a government that brought is not law, that law policy should not stand. So the people is that.
Okay. All right. Mr. Charles, thank you very much. Now, he's talking about the fact that the Supreme Court has jurisdiction because the law, if I want to use my own words, is repugnant to natural justice, probably. And it's not fair, it's bringing hardship on Nigerians.
Which law?
The central bank's policy.
Okay.
He looks at it as a law,
okay,
and that the Supreme Court has powers to intervene. And I'm sure you had listened to Ekemini. Now, Nigeria is a democratic country, and democracy works with rules, laws, and division of labor. Hello, you're on to Legally Speaking. Yeah.
Hello.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. The federal government and the judiciary, all they are trying to confuse Nigeria because of all this tension. So all of them, I did not support all of them for what they're doing.
Sir, you're even confusing us too because we don't know your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, I'm from Niger State.
Your name, sir?
Yeah, from Niger State, from Niger. I'm Habile Emmanuel from Niger State.
Emmanuel, okay, thank you very much for not confusing us too. Go on with the federal government thing.
They change to this, tomorrow change, and that they change.
Okay. All right, thank you for calling in. So, Ekemini, like I said, much as we might celebrate the position of the central bank or the Supreme Court, you know, it probably has brought succor to us and so on. But you see, laws are meant to be followed, whether they are good or bad laws. Because when you fail to follow a bad law, tomorrow you will fail to follow a good law. Because there was that precedent, right? So there's division of labor, even within courts, who handles what. Hello.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening. You're welcome to the program.
Good evening. Yes, I'm calling from Kano.
Okay. Kano. Your name, sir?
My name is Abdul.
Abdul from Kano.
My name is Abdul.
Okay. Welcome to the show.
Please, you are the learned person.
Okay.
Yeah, what these people are doing in the government, for the Central Bank of Nigeria, some governor of Nigeria, all the leaders, everybody get up, go to the courts, both the people who know the law, they committed the law, both the one who they don't know the law, everybody is doing his own anyhow. Please, you people on the law, please. You cannot tell these people the truth now. Tell them the truth because they are breaking the law down. There's no law in this country now as far as Nigeria is concerned. Whatever they know that is wrong, they are still doing it. Somebody know that this thing, if I go to court, I may not win. What is going there? But somebody know that this thing, if I go to that place, this thing is not correct. What is going? Because why? In party is living. You can go to and do whatever they like. And they are bringing the law of the country down. We common people, our head is down. So please, sir, you people to talk to them.
All right, Abdul, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate your call. Yes, I think that's part of what we say. When even when you have courts, the law says this court will handle this, this court will handle this, this court will handle this. If they will issue with currency, like Ekemini said, take it to the Federal High Court. The Federal High Court will bring all the necessary parties, which includes the Central Bank of Nigeria, and they will argue it out. And it progresses from there to the Supreme Court. Hello, sir. Yes. You're welcome to Legally Speaking. All right. So the Supreme Court will still hear that matter eventually. They let it start from the proper court.
Exactly.
And grow to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
It's like now because I'm struggling my land with a neighbor. And I just carry the case file at the Supreme Court.
Straight up.
So that my neighbor will not have a chance to appeal it to anywhere else. Hello, you're on to Legally Speaking.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to Legally Speaking.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Abbas. I'm calling you from Kogi State.
Abbas from Kogi State. Go on, sir.
Yeah, definitely the country, we are facing difficult challenges because the people we call the eyes of the masses, they are even the one punishing the masses. We are what I'm saying, I'm talking about the judges. They know the truth, but they can never speak the truth because they are giving them some turkeys through the backyard to suffer the common masses. They are there for us, but they are not doing what the common masses wanted from them. They are even the one causing all the hardship we are facing in this country. We don't have, in fact, we have law in this country, but we don't have judges. They create the law, and they are the one break the law. Now, they stop us from making use of this old Naira note. The new Naira note doesn't come out. After the election, they are telling us to start using it. Where are we going to get it from? After we are moving everything down to bank, we can't be able to go to bank to get the old and the new one. Is it after they are basically sharing for themselves, they still want us to face another setback again? Where are we going? Even from the presidency, we don't see anything good coming out from there.
Wow.
They know what they are doing, especially the judges. They are suffering the common man.
Well, thank you very much. Well, these are opinions and emotions of regular Nigerians.
But he cannot be too sure. We appreciate his call, but
yes,
he cannot be too sure
that the judges have been compromised.
Yes, he cannot.
Yes.
So,
you know, sometimes people don't know that some of these judges act on their personal beliefs and instincts, not necessarily because they are people.
Tony is my name. I call in from Idura.
Hello, Tony. You're welcome to the show. Go on, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I want to quickly say that, Barrister, you should not be surprised because every of these people speaking now, the judges, the common people, and the rest, they are all products of the society. We are in Nigeria. We've seen our court give several verdicts. The Federal High Court in Akwa Ibom will give verdicts. Another court will in another Federal High Court in another state will give another contrary verdict. What about sanctions now? What about injunction? They have been given severally. That doesn't, tantamount to the judgment of the court that's supposed to be the same. This gives concern to the people that if the court that's supposed to be the hope of every common man is going contrary in their reasoning, then there's something wrong. What about the Supreme Court now? We are talking about this issue of monetary now. Why can't the state government start from the Federal High Court? Then Supreme Court being the final court in the land, supposed to give their final bit that supersedes every other judgment. But are they telling us that they are going to bring it down to the lower court before they now go back to the Supreme Court? This calls for concern. And in terms of, tribunal in Nigeria, someone will say, let me win you at the field, take me to the court. And if you have your way, you can get it because they say you should prove beyond reasonable doubt. There are certain cases that the judge, the barristers will present their case and they throw it out. They say it lacks merit. It's just an academic exercise. You come to wonder whether these people are not learned like them or what happens that the case will be thrown out just like that. So these are the kind of things that give us concern that should anything goes wrong in the field and we feel that they're not supposed to correct it for us, it is always contrary. So where are we heading to? These are the concern of the people now. So when you hear people talking like that, it is based on the experiences that we've gathered over a period of time that give this concern. So the judge or the judiciary should have it right this time around because everybody saw how the election went. INEC did not give us what of them. They gave us hope that they would do this and that, but they did not do it. And yes, they manipulated the result and gave the result just for peace to reign. This type of imposition is too much on people, so they should stop it and do the right thing at the right time. Nigerians are not fools, but what we know is that since we are behaving very, simple and law-abiding, they should not take Nigerians for a ride.
All right. Thank you very much today too. Thank you very much. I don't think anybody is taking Nigeria for a ride. A lot of people are just trying to promote their personal interest. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello?
Yes, you're welcome to Legally Speaking.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Patrick.
Okay, Patrick. Patrick, where are you calling
I'm calling from Delta State.
Delta State. You're welcome to the program, sir.
I want to first of all thank you guys for this good job.
Thank you, sir.
What is going on in Nigeria right now and the issue at discussion is like we don't know what is paining the citizens as a result of this policy. Our learned legal practitioner there, he said the Supreme Court lacks jurisdiction to look into this issue. But I want to remind him, when the governors, some key governors, make a move to meet with the president and the CBN governor to find a way to see how they can adjust the policy, the federal government went behind into a federal high court and bring interlocutory injunction to stop anybody from persuading the federal government or the CBN governor to stop the policy or to stop that deadline. So based on this, where do you expect the governor to now go? They've already brought that injunction. So the best thing is to go straight to the Supreme Court, that has the right to overpower the High Court injunction. And that is what they have done. And what the Supreme Court did that day brings peace to everybody. And there was peace of mind to all the citizens that were suffering at that time. And now today they give their final jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
The Constitution, in Section 2 or 2, said any policy that is not human should not be implemented. I want to ask you whether is that not in the Constitution?
It's not there, sir.
It's not.
This policy is actually anti-human.
We have said it is not.
It's not there, sir.
It's policy everybody, whether you are rich or poor, and you said this policy to go on.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the call. I really appreciate the call.
The judiciary is not independent.
Let me ask him a question. You said they were right in moving from Federal High Court straight. I'm asking a question now, sir. You said they were right in moving from Federal High Court. They were right in going after the decision of the Federal High Court that you talked about, the interlocutory injunction. You said the governors were right in going straight to the Supreme Court. So are you aware that there is a court of appeal in between these two courts that you just mentioned?
I'm not sure it's still online. So, but this is a position for correction. You cannot take your matter straight to the Supreme Court just because you don't want others, you want to quash the powers of other people. That's a very African mentality. And it's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. What you do is to follow the rules of superiority of courts. If the matter says original jurisdiction lies with the High Court, you start at the Federal High Court. After the determination of the Federal High Court, you appeal it to the Court of Appeal and then to the Supreme Court. You don't start at the Supreme Court because you want to beat the traffic. You want to get there first, and every other person will just down tools. No, it's an abuse of the process. Meanwhile, before we run out of time, we still have to discuss the elections. 2023 elections came, and there was so much drama in between. There were calls for the suspension of the collation of the results and probably further announcements of the results, which INEC did not botch. At the end of the day, INEC announced Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the APC as the president-elect of Nigeria. We shouldn't omit that. That's the most important decision of the last 1 week. So Bola Ahmed Tinubu is now the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But legally speaking, our concern is not on who has emerged. We want to narrow our concern to that point where even the president, Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president, appealed to INEC to suspend the votes counts, to suspend announcements of the results, because he felt, like most Nigerians, that there were lots of malpractices across the board. So now, I'll go to Tini. What's the position of the law regarding where there are malpractices in elections? Does the law really promote, or would INEC have powers to suspend the announcement of the results ordinarily?
Ordinarily, I don't think INEC has powers to suspend the announcement of the results, because I don't think it's within the powers of INEC to do that. Now, when a result is announced, finally, it behoves on the parties involved to go to court and say, okay, this is what happened, this person is not supposed to be here. Just go to court and air your grievance.
Check section 60, 61, 62. A lot of people have tried to go towards that section. Well, at least that's part of why these people have gone to court, the Labour Party candidate, that some sections of the law, check 62, sub 4, 60 sub 4, and the rest of them. They've gone to court to say these are the reasons we are not comfortable with this result. I'm sure you would have a contrary view, would you? That INEC ought to have suspended the election at the time?
Well, in the first place, I think that INEC failed the entire world by the way it conducted itself.
That's your assessment?
That's my assessment, and I think that's also the assessment of a lot of people. Well, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has emerged. I congratulate him. In the first place, it's not easy to win an election in any country, even if it is the smallest country in the world. So congratulations to him. Having announced him, a legal event has taken place. You can't even take it away from him now. If you want to take it away from him now, he will go to court and stop you from doing it, because a legal event has occurred, and it stays at that. But did INEC live up to its responsibility? INEC did not. As a matter of fact, INEC failed woefully. In fact, if INEC were to be a student in class, INEC would have had maybe something as low as 30% over 100. It was not a pass mark for INEC. Why am I saying so? INEC gave guidelines for the conduct of this election. INEC talked about the use of beavers. And one of the things they said with the use of beavers was results will be transmitted real time from the polling unit to the next level. They failed to do that. And people complained and said, sir, what you said you were going to do, which made us to come into this contest, you've not done it. INEC ignored it completely and went on. And I think that INEC so failed in its responsibility in that regard. Now, Obasanjo wrote a letter. I may not agree entirely with the contents of Obasanjo's letter, but he made some points. Let's not brush it away completely. Why I don't even want to agree with him is the fact that during Obasanjo's administration, elections were not even better. But this is a new era. We expected INEC to behave differently. Now, in other countries of the world, like in Kenya, the last election collation result was not announced immediately because there were some complaints and they held it. They held it for some time, sorted out the complaint, and then continued with the announcement to the extent that it is free and fair. I do not know whether the best option for Nigeria would have been for INEC to suspend and review the complaints, or whether it was for INEC to still continue. But what I know is that INEC failed Nigerians. INEC disappointed itself by not complying with the rules that INEC itself set to be followed in that election. We are going into election again 2 Saturdays from now. INEC should not do this kind of thing anymore. Two things. It is that INEC suspends the guidelines and says, let's go back to our old ways. Or if INEC is still using the guidelines, then they have to stick to the provisions of the guidelines. If in the course of election, you cannot upload, then something needs to be done so that we can have a free and fair election. and not to do this kind of charade that INEC just did, and then nobody is...
Well, I think I would differ.
You're
I would
free to
differ with
differ
their
now.
position.
You work with INEC.
I did vote. I did vote. I know that in my polling unit, there was almost a perfect, I would say there was a perfect election. Now, where there were issues, where we had issues, or where Nigerians seem to have issues, is that the INEC result was not uploaded from the polling units, not collation centers, from the polling units
to the server.
To the server.
Yes.
Now, that not being done, we can't say that the entire result or performance of INEC is zero. No.
I never said it's zero.
Yes, it raises,
I never said it's zero.
It just raises questions at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the score for me
now,
30 over 100.
Now, if that is where the questions have been raised, majority of Nigerians will tell you that the conduct was free and fair, right? Except that there was that point of uploading didn't happen. Now, I have had questions, I've had people question some of the results that were posted. And then those results, according to them, are questionable.
Okay.
Now, questionable results are not just localized in Nigeria. It's happened everywhere. Does that call for the cancellation of the process by INEC? My answer, I think, is no. Now, I really do support the decision of INEC to send these results first, announce who has won. All of the complaints by all of the parties can then be channeled to the court. If you have evidence of malpractice, it's not the place of INEC to say, because party AB has shown overwhelming evidence of malpractice, we will suspend this result. Now, don't forget, the law also provides that the beavers should shut down where there has been abuse and serious conflicts, right? Beavers will shut down. It also says where there is overvoting. In fact, why should there even be the word overvoting? All right? So having regards to that, the best thing INEC did was announce the result. Everybody go to court. Hello.
Hello, good evening. Legally speaking,
Good
I am
evening.
UK calling from Uyo.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, by Taikemini, and the other guests in the studio. The barrister called the just concluded presidential election 30 over 100. I think the barrister is being too kind to INEC. And then you countered that by saying that the election was perfect in your polling unit. No doubt about that. But then, just do some digging into the election that was conducted in Lagos and Rivers State, particularly. There are overwhelming evidence of people being disenfranchised. There are overwhelming evidence of voter intimidation, overwhelming evidence of...
Did that happen in Uyo? Did that happen in Akwa Ibom?
No, allow him now. Yeah.
Okay, as a matter of fact, in ITAC, and no ITAC in Econo local government, I think that was one.
Okay.
Election was cancelled due to violence.
Okay.
On Saturday, 25th February, in somewhere in Ukok, in the local government,
Okay.
people were killed because of election violence.
So it wasn't widespread in Akwa Ibom.
I didn't get that.
It wasn't widespread in Akwa Ibom.
It wasn't widespread, but having pockets of violence means the election was not perfect by every sense of the word. Now,
Exactly.
if that's not enough evidence, just look at what I said. In Lagos, several evidence of people being attacked because of their choice of political party. So I would call this election 10 over 100, and I call it 10 because taxpayers' money was used in conducting this election. That's why I gave it 10. Anything else is a complete failure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, KBDC, like I've always said, Nigeria is bigger than Lagos and Port Harcourt. Now, there cannot be any perfect election.
But don't you think...
He has said in Uyo, in Akwa Ibom, there was issues in ITAC, there was issues somewhere in INEC cannot be perfect. No election will ever be perfect.
Nobody is asking for a perfect election.
Fine.
But you see, INEC must admit that they failed in this very election. They did not keep to their rules. See, if they don't admit, it means that they're going to continue the same thing in the next election. And this is not good for Nigeria. See, if the INEC chairman had paid attention to complaints, I am sure that the election in Rivers State and the election in Lagos State ought to have been cancelled, and then another election conducted to have it very transparent.
That is where he lost 70%.
No. I'm just giving an instance, okay?
No,
now,
because my concern is that
Tony,
if he did so,
yes,
if he did so, would he have scored 100%?
No. See, I'm just giving two instances. Now, let me tell you, there is no law that says that the INEC chairman must announce the result of collation within 24 hours. If the INEC chairman had said, okay, gentlemen, there are so many complaints, let us look at it briefly. 48 hours, we're going to announce. That would have made sense, would have allowed him to assess the situation and then be able to come up with the best possible decision.
Now, if INEC
we can't continue like this because people will say, just go to court, just go to court.
Now, if we look at this, remember what happened with the June 12 election? Everybody thought, okay, let's suspend it and announce it later. Until today, we've not seen it.
The situations are not the same.
All right, anyway.
See, the situations are not the same. Today, there is a president presiding over Nigeria, and so there is no emergency.
We are out of time, and we will still continue. Next week is election, and we will still continue to discuss these issues. That's the size of Legally Speaking this weekend. I have been with Ekeminudum and Etini Basi. Guys, thank you very much for the very, very exciting company you've kept with us. My name is Anthony Ebuk of Law Partners and Associates. I believe everything you do from now till next weekend when the elections is coming in will be legal.
The Nigerian police force, which is the only one allowed by Constitution, our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.